because today we're going to be diving into a topic that I feel like has been coming up a lot lately in the program and just in general, and that's the concept of rest. The concept of being able to slow down, to yield into the body, to settle, to let go. And symbolically, this shows up in our everyday life in a lot of different ways, right? We aren't able to, we find it hard to prioritize rest because there's so much that we have to do. And when we do rest, we feel like it's not working, or my brain is all over the place, or I'm resisting it, or I'm just thinking about all the things that I need to do. And we also see kind of this symbolic presence of this ability, as I said, to not let go, right? It's like we're always bracing, we're always preparing, we're always on to the next thing. And our culture and our society really is built for us to speed up, right? We're always going to the next thing. What's next in our lives? But I think what's really important in the regulation and the somatic work that we do is finding a rhythm, getting back to the natural rhythm of regulation. And the rhythm of regulation is not go, go, go. It is the ebbs and flows, right? When we talk about that window of tolerance that we learn about in module 2, the nervous system module, the window of tolerance, which is our biorhythm, are these waves, right, of activation and deactivation, activation, deactivation. And so it's important in this work, and it's foundational really, that we have the capacity to not just be with moments of activation and know how to work through it. It's even more important that we can be with moments of deactivation, of settling, of ease, of rest, of yielding, and of letting go. So we're going to be practicing that, I think, a bit more in the program. I do have, I believe, a practice in the program on yielding, but we're going to practice just some rest today. And what we're going to really explore today is just what our body's overall response to resting and yielding is. So yielding is the body's ability to let go. And as I've mentioned in the past, and maybe I will share in the community page this week, an old post that I made, I talked about, and we have talked about, how yielding is something that we learn as babies. And yielding is actually a postural position that we take on within the body to yield and to let go. So when babies are being held, when they're being rocked, when they're being nursed or given milk, babies learn to reflexively let go of their muscles and to yield into the support of another, of a caregiver. And so often, if we didn't receive that early on, then we might find, right, that we have to muscle through life, that we have to take on everything on our own. And we find that a lot of these patterns in the body, which are maybe not necessary now, right, to always be bracing, to always be engaged in the muscles and in the fascia and in the bones and in the joints. We might not recognize that we are subconsciously doing that all the time because we maybe didn't have those early imprints of yielding. So as we get into this work, you might find that there is resistance to yielding in the body. Okay, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sprinkling in through our weekly sessions just more time for slowing down and rest. So that might look like 1 week we're doing something around rest like we are right now. The next week we work with activation. The next week we work with deactivation and some kind of rest. The next week we work with activation. So these are things that are kind of just in my mind, and that means that we'll find different areas of the body in these sessions that we can facilitate more capacity for rest, right? More rest in the belly and in our digestive system that's always going, that's always tense, that's always in knots. Maybe more rest in the head, in the cranial space. Maybe more rest in the eyes and in the face. Maybe more rest in the joints, maybe in the diaphragms, right? When we are able to bring in deep rest and yielding, the body comes into more of that physiological flow that we've talked about. Okay, so let's get into the practice today. Like I said, I know that I'm not with you all, but just pretend that we are together, okay? So today we are just going to do, like I said, a bit of like an exploration just to see what our body's response to resting and yielding is. Okay, so this will kind of be step one for us on this journey and these sessions that I'm going to be sprinkling into the program. So the first thing that we're going to do is just kind of get an awareness of our body, right? As you've been taking in this information, as you've been listening in, what do you notice? So I was noticing that my stomach muscles are braced. Noticing that I'm in this very large bean bag today because I feel like this is a really great place for my body to be able to yield. And that might be what I should have mentioned that at the beginning, is I might recommend that you find a place or a setting today where your body can really get comfortable. Okay, whether that's lying down in bed or sitting on a couch or in a chair that allows you to rest your head back, okay, and get comfortable like this. Okay, so just finding a comfortable spot for today. Maybe it's on the ground, right, with a pillow or something. All right. Let's take just a moment, get yourself comfortable. Okay, and I think a lot of the tone like that we're going to be setting in these practices is that we often feel like we need to be doing more, right? How can I fix? What can I do? And it's less of fixing the body, less of fixing the nervous system, and more so meeting it where it's at. Allowing the body and the nervous system to be met, attuned to be held. And so that's a little bit of what we're going to provide today. Okay. So just check in with yourself. I've been noticing that my system is slowing down a bit, just as, let me turn the camera down. There we go. My system is definitely starting to slow down. And so just notice in your own body and in your own system, right? Because as I experience this, there's a chance that your system starts to experience the same. So there's some yawning. My hands are kind of on my legs and they just feel very loose. There's not gripping, there's not bracing. My feet are out in front of me, just kind of resting on the stool that the computer is sitting on. And if it feels okay, just start to take time to orient to the space around you very slowly. Allowing the eyes to explore. And you don't need to have like a deep examination through the eyes. Sometimes when we're tracking too closely different things, it can start to feel like more work. So almost kind of imagine that like your eyes are softening, you have more of like a peripheral open gaze, and you're kind of just taking the whole scene in, right? You're not really fixating on any particular thing. I'm kind of thinking of it as I'm taking in just different quadrants and different sections of the room. There's another yawn. So as you're doing this, just start to notice any shifts or any ways that your body is settling even more. Okay. All right. So today we are going to be with the practice of yielding. Okay, and yielding again is the body's way of letting go into support. Okay. So we are going to use pendiculation as a way to kind of support the letting go or the yielding today. Okay, so pendiculations again is when the body tenses and then lets go. So when we stretch, we tense, 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 and then we release. So today we're going to work with micro pendiculations and as a way to just deepen our rest and deepen um, the settling and the yielding. Okay. All right, so the first place that we are going to start is going to be in our feet. Okay. So I'll invite you right now to just take time, okay, and make sure your feet are in a position where when they do yield, that it feels comfortable. Okay. What we're going to do is we are just going to start by clenching the toes and the feet, almost like ballerina feet. Okay, clench, 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 clench. And then go ahead and release. And then we're just going to take a moment and just notice what that feels like. Feeling the rest within the feet and just seeing what changes. So I'm noticing there's like tingling under my feet. Okay, and we can also work with imagery. And we're going to go back through all the body parts towards the end and just do like a full pendiculation and a softening at the end. Okay, but if there's a visualization or an image, like, oh, as I let go of my feet and now they're on the ground and they feel really deeply relaxed, it feels like roots, right? They're rooted in the ground. That's just an example. So if you have an image or if you have visualizations that come up during our time together, I would recommend really leaning into those. So I'm recognizing that my feet are not comfortable because one's up and one's down. So we're just going to shift. There we go. That's better. All right. That's worrying. So now we're going to work with the ankles. Okay, so the ankles. And what you can do now is we can kind of brace the ankles by pulling the feet up. Okay, so if these are my feet that were down, we're now just going to pull the feet up, just kind of engage the ankles. You'll feel this a little bit in your shins, a little bit in your calves. Bracing, 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 and letting go slowly. And then just start to track what happens around the ankles, the feet, the shins, and the calves. So again, every time I let go, there's like this feeling of coolness. It almost feels like icy hot a little bit under the skin. It's also just some slight like pulsing. And I also noticed that there was either a sigh or an exhale that took place when I let go. Right. So now let's move up into the upper legs. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to engage just the quads and the hamstrings. Okay, and you might feel this a little bit in your hips and in your glutes. Okay, we're just going to flex the muscles here. Okay, so go ahead and start to flex, flex, engaging, engaging, engaging. You might even feel your legs start to shake and tremble from the muscles. And gently start to release. And then just kind of drop down into the legs. and track what that's like. So again, I'm noticing that icy hot, but it also feels like this time there's like a flow. I'm feeling it. And there's kind of a buzzing in my feet. But it feels like this kind of coolish, and then it gets warm flow that's going kind of just through the legs. All right. So now we are going to move into the hips. Okay, the hips hold a lot. We have joints. We have our pelvic bowl, which is a diaphragm. We have our pelvic floor. All right, we have the psoas muscle. This is our center of power and stability. A lot of people think our stability is in our feet, but our stability is actually in our core, which is really the hips and the pelvis. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to start to engage. We're going to engage the glutes and part of the pelvis. Okay, so it's kind of going to be like a holding that's going to happen. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and start to just engage, hold, hold. It's almost like you're tilting your pelvis forward. Okay. Hold, 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 and we're going to gently release, kind of like a melted release, and just settle back in. Right, so I will say for some of us, if we've had any kind of trauma or experiences where power was taken from us, we've had medical injuries, difficult birth, difficult pregnancies, births, things like that. That could be activating, somewhat activating to bring those parts of the body online for a moment. Okay. Because these parts can often become dissociated when we've experienced any kind of trauma. Right. So I noticed just a little bit of an increase in my heart rate. So I'm just recognizing that there's a little bit of activation here too. Right. And this is part of the exploration that I was talking about, is noticing, are there certain parts of the body that resist rest? There's a resting that's happening now, and I'm even noticing my bladder feels more rested. And I actually feel like I have to go to the bathroom. I don't actually have to go to the bathroom. I'm not going to go to the bathroom because I went to the restroom right before this, but I'm noticing there's a settling kind of in the small intestines. And just notice the gurgle in my belly. I don't know if you all could hear that. So now just kind of track again, come back down to the feet, and just notice, what is this overall experience of yielding in the lower body like? What are you noticing? And so it's interesting. I'm noticing it was not as settled as it was at the beginning. It's kind of like my legs are kind of engaged a little bit. Instead of just laying like this, like they were the first couple of rounds, they're now kind of like this and holding. So the pelvis kind of opened things up for me. So I'm going to just readjust a little bit. And I'm just going to do one big pendiculation through my feet, through my legs. I'm just kind of bracing and letting go again. There we go. Yeah. Right. So a lot of this is just kind of testing out what works for you, seeing what your body needs. All right. So now let's move up into, we're going to work with the front body first, and then work our way into the back body. Okay. But right now, what we're going to do is we are going to work with the belly. Okay. The belly holds so much. Okay, and the belly is really our center of fear. Okay, the front of the belly. And it's also a really big emotional center. Okay, when we can't metabolize things, when we can't metabolize our emotions, that can also be, especially fear, that can show up in our digestive system, right, as digestive issues. Okay, so, and that's where intuition comes from, right? Our gut instincts, our intuition. Do we trust ourselves, or is there doubt, right? And doubt, we know, comes from fear, insecurity, not insecurity of ourselves necessarily, but insecurity around whether or not we can trust our decisions, our intuition. So all of this, I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot that gets held here. So what we're going to do now is we are going to just brace and hold the abdominal muscles. Okay, so we're going to flex the abdomen and the abdominals, the obliques, and then we're going to let go. Okay. All right, so go ahead and start to engage, 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 and let go. Wow. Oh, wow. That was an intense yawn. I also felt kind of like uh, I feel it in my legs again, but it felt kind of like the flow that I've been feeling. It just felt like it was like went up into my head and then way back down. Almost like this just opened up my bottom, my lower body to the upper body. Wow. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of deeper breath right now. The belly feels full, not engaged, not sucked in or holding. Oh, tearful yawns at this point. Okay, so we're now going to work with the chest. Okay, and then we'll make our way down to the spine in just a little bit. So let's work with the chest now. Okay, the chest, the heart center. So here we're going to just kind of, there's ways that we can engage the muscles and engage this area, or just hold tightly or brace. Okay. So go ahead and just start to engage the chest in whichever way feels comfortable for you. Just engage, engage, engage. Flexing the muscles kind of through here. And pectoral muscles, and then release. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Ooh. All right, we're going to come to the back body now before we work with the arms and the head and the neck. Okay. So thinking about the lower back. Okay, just the lower back up to the rib cage. This is an important part of the body because this is where our adrenals are. All this area, the front and the back body, all under the rib cage and right above the digestive system. Not only do we have our part of our one of our diaphragms, right, the respiratory diaphragm, but we also have our liver, our kidneys, our adrenals, right? There's a lot here, small, large intestines. And so when we're holding this area of the body, it's going to, and we're bracing in these areas, it's really going to impact all of those things. Okay. So for now, what we're going to do, and again, you can engage this part of the body in any way that you want. And as you do this, you might engage part of the abdominals or the obliques again, and that's okay. Okay, but just go ahead and start to engage the lower back. So for me, it feels kind of like I'm just straightening my spine up. And flexing, 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 feeling the muscles around the spine. And letting go. Make sure you're letting go of the belly as well. Hmm. A lot of tears. All right. So we're now going to work with the upper back. Okay, the trapezius muscles, the shoulders. This is the area where we start to move into our preparatory movements for bracing. Right, so when we feel hypervigilant, our shoulders go up, right? When we're kind of stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight. But where that starts is actually in the trapezius muscles between the shoulder blades, right? It starts in the top spine and at the base of the brainstem. So what we're going to do now is we are going to actually push our shoulder blades back as if we're trying to pinch our shoulder blades together. Okay, and you're going to engage the muscles between the shoulder blades. So go ahead and engage, 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 engage. You'll feel this in your shoulders and release. Mm. So before we move into the neck and the head, the face, and the arms, we're just going to do again one more pendiculation all the way from the bottom. Okay, and what we're kind of doing is right now I'm breaking this up diaphragm by diaphragm. So there's a diaphragm, a lot of osteopaths will say there's a diaphragm in the feet. Some will say there's a diaphragm in the knees. We have the diaphragm, the pelvic bowl that I mentioned in the hips. We have the respiratory diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm, and then we have the shoulder diaphragm, which holds a lot. Okay, and then we have our cerebellum, cerebelli tentorium diaphragm, and there is part diaphragm here within the midbrain and a diaphragm in the cranial dome. Okay, but what happens is that when, and a diaphragm is a horizontal line of tissue and ligaments. Okay, so we have horizontal ligaments rather than up and down. And so you can think of these though as barriers. Okay, so when we have one diaphragm that's holding or constricting or bracing, we might not even recognize that it's happening. Okay, like here, we hold a lot here. When we are able to find ease, right, not dis-ease, right, we're not tensioning and holding and bracing, but when we can find ease in those diaphragms, it's a domino effect. It starts to affect the other diaphragms, and the other diaphragms can start to open, which creates more of that physiological flow that I was talking about, more circulation as well. Okay, there's more, there's a lot of different things that start to change. But for me, probably when I was bracing in the pelvis and then I opened up the hips and then I said, whoa, I just noticed it just went up and then back down. It was probably the pelvic bowl diaphragm opening up a little bit and releasing, which then created that cascade effect throughout the rest of the body. Okay, when we do this, it can bring the body into more coherence, which means the body can be in an overall state of more ease, more rest. But it's hard for the body to go into a full state of ease or rest and digest when there are certain parts of the body that are holding and bracing. Okay, so when we work with moving upward or down, what we're doing is we're just opening these areas to bring the body into more coherence, which means moving us from a place of fixity, where there's stuck or fixed places in the body, to now this place of flow. So what we're going to do now is just kind of, before we move up to the head and the shoulders, okay, because this can be a really big opener for people, is we're just going to do another pendiculation from the feet up. Okay, so this is more going to be like a full body brace at this point. Okay, so go ahead and start to engage the feet, the legs, the glutes, the hips, the belly, the back, the shoulders, partly the shoulders, but into the chest. You might feel like you're kind of a straight board right now. Brace, 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 and release. Also, don't be surprised if this does bring up some emotion. Right? For some of us, and if you need to get comfortable again or reorient, you can. Need to kind of shift a little bit. But for some of us, this concept again of like letting go and opening ourselves up, it's that place of safety and ease that sometimes gives the body permission to literally let go of what it's been holding on to. So if emotion is coming up for you, know that that is completely normal. Or you could do things like just holding a place on your heart or a place on holding a hand in the place of the body that feels like it's opening up. Okay. All right. So just to kind of start bringing this to a close, we are going to now work with the shoulders. Okay. So again, shoulder diaphragm is where we hold a lot. Okay. And this is where a lot of our gross motor movements for anticipatory feelings, experiences comes from, right? Anticipation of threat, anticipation of being let down, and anticipation of activation, right? So there's a lot of anticipation that we hold here, preparing for what happened back then to also happen here in the here and now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to just engage the shoulder diaphragm, just to show you guys, it actually comes into the neck. Okay, so if I were to kind of go like this, right? You see my neck here. All these tendons, all these ligaments, they connect down into the shoulder joint. Okay, so all of these muscles here, the neck, this is why we can get tension migraines. This is why the neck and the shoulders can all get stiff, because this diaphragm literally comes up to the jaw and down. Okay, so it's a big diaphragm. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to brace the neck and the shoulders a little bit together. Okay, so you might end up like making a face with your jaw if you just want to see how I do it first and then join in. All right, so ready and engage, 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 and release. It feels like a buzzing in my neck, and almost like a tensing from the inside. And I can feel the pulse of my heart kind of in the neck a little bit. Just kind of imagine like there's a melting, right? There's a letting go right now in the neck. And now we're just going to engage the back of the neck along the brain stem. Okay, we hold a lot in the neck and in this part of the spine. Okay. So what we're going to do now is just kind of imagine, you can do this. It's more like an internal flexing that's going to be happening, but just kind of engage the back of the neck. Bracing, 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 and letting go. All right, if there's any desire to stretch or to move, just to get more comfortable, you can. Okay. All right, before we end with the face and the head, we're now going to just move into the hands and the arms real quick. Okay. So go ahead and we're just going to, with our palms up, we're just going to engage the fists, clenching, 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 and letting go. We're going to work with the arms. Okay, go ahead, clench, engage, flexing the muscles all the way up to the shoulders, flexing, 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 and releasing. All right, so we're now going to work with the back of the head. Okay, the back of the head also holds a lot. A lot. This is where the cerebellum is, and the cerebellum is at the bottom of the skull in the back here. Okay, and this is what governs over the body. It's the command post, the command center for everything, all the functions happening in the body. Our heart rate, our digestion, our body temperature, our blood flow, okay, everything, our sensory motor system, everything happens from here. All right, so go ahead and start to just engage. And again, it's going to feel like an internal flexing, but engage the back of the skull. Engage, engage, just feeling some tension and let go. Okay, we're going to do the same with the top of the head now. Again, there's a diaphragm here. So just engage. You might feel your eyebrows or your face start to make faces. Engage the top of the head, engage the top of the head. Notice tension and release. And now the face. Right, so in the face is where we'll have things like tired eyes, tense jaws. Okay. You can get tension headaches here in our forehead, ringing in the ears, right? There's a lot that happens in the face, a lot of nerves. So here what we're going to do is just kind of scrunch up, start to brace the face. Do that just a little bit. Feel it through the ears pulling forward, feel it in the jaw. Brace, brace, brace. And gently let go. So now we're going to do it one more time from just a full body pendiculation. Okay. So we are going to brace everything and we're going to look really funny doing it. And that's okay. Okay. But we're going to start bracing from the toes. Go ahead and engage the feet, the ankles, the shins, the calves, the knees, the legs, the glutes, the hips, and the belly, the back, the chest, the shoulders, up through the shoulder diaphragm, the arms, clench the hands, brace the face and the head, hold, hold, and gently start to let go. Just melt into it. I'm just going to take a moment to track. I'm noticing that coolness again through my legs, the icy hot. There's pulsing in my hands. I kind of feel the pulsing in my eyes a little bit, but it feels pleasant. It's just this bump, 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 bump. I'm yawning. All right. So if your eyes aren't open, I'll invite you to just start to gently open the eyes. Okay. And to gently just start to wiggle the toes and the fingers. Okay, we're going to come back into aliveness now. And start to just gently roll the ankles, roll the wrists a little bit. You can lift the head, start to roll the neck just very gently. Okay. And for me, I'm going to just go ahead. My legs were out, but I just put them so that my feet are on the ground. Let's go ahead and just find a way to place our feet on the ground. And then we're just going to do some gentle hip rocking. Some rolling, rocking. Okay, I'm starting to move the arms as well now. There we go. And if it feels okay, we're just going to gently start, again, slow is important, gently start to sit up. Or just take in more weight in the spine. Okay, so we're coming, excuse me, out of the yield. Then just start to notice if anything feels different in your body. As you do this, you can orient again back to your space. I'm noticing there's I feel more lifted and more engaged just in my body overall, but I do notice there's like some achiness kind of in my mid spine, mid to upper spine. What can happen too is that as you do this work, right, coming into more ease, more settling, what we're really doing is also coming into presence. And so when we're going, we can often override how the body is feeling. So when we take time to slow down and reconnect, sensation can start to reemerge, right? Maybe the pain that we've been pushing through that we didn't know there can start to show up. So just like the emotional component of as we slow down, emotion can start to emerge and come out. That can also be felt in the body too. Okay, it's not a bad thing. It means that we are more with aliveness. And aliveness does not mean that we feel good all the time. It means that we can ride the waves up and down. Right. And this is what embodiment is being with the somatic experience of the body, both what feels good and what sometimes doesn't feel good. But what's good now is that now I have this awareness that there's a part of my back that feels achy. So I might do some stretching and some tending to myself when we're done. Okay. All right, everyone. I'm pretty sure I went over. Pretty sure I went way over. And this is a practice I might actually put into the dashboard, just as I feel like a good foundational practice for rest. So I might even add this to the somatic tools section. Okay, but just know that this is something, like I said, we're going to be diving deeper into. So, this concept of slowing down, leaning in, coming home to the parts of us that are working so hard. And maybe need some reprieve. So we'll work with particular places of the body, with the viscera, organs, stuff like that. Okay.